Stacy Compton joining us right now on the show. Stacy, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing good so far.
Sorry to make you wait out there. We're stuck in this little closet in here. We don't know what really is going on outside.
You need windows. That's what it is.
Well, or some air conditioning.
Yeah.
Might need some of that.
Well, just walk outside. It's a little air conditioned out there today.
How about that? Yesterday with practice and everything, speeds were up a little bit. How much is that going to affect the guys this weekend?
The track's going to have a lot of grip this morning. Yesterday, obviously, it was cool and windy. The wind was affecting us probably more than anything else. But, the cooler temperature is going to make it fast. It's going to be, I think, yesterday, the first time out, everybody was the fastest they were all day. And this morning, it's going to be fast. I'm going to say it's probably a half a second faster this morning than it was yesterday.
But with that all being said, is it hard to, like yesterday and today, does there come a point to where it's almost a waste of time and dollars putting the laps on your motor, burning up the tires for the practice when the conditions are going to be so different?
Not really. I mean, basically you're trying things, you're learning things, and you're doing things for the beginning of the run when it's cool, and you're doing things for the end of the run when you're running out of fuel and you've gotten your tires worn out. So seat time is seat time and laps are laps. So I don't think it's ever a waste of time to go out and make changes and make laps, because you do get a feel of what's going to happen throughout the day.
But you really got to be conscious about the dollars, because the margins are so slim now, especially with this tough economy, and a lot of guys are working on smaller deals. I mean, I know when I was running ARCA, and now you hear guys that are taking sponsorships that are like a tenth of what we were getting even 10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's just getting worse. I mean, it's just making you take a different angle towards the way you're doing things right now, and you still got to perform to get sponsors, and that's the bottom line. Is it's almost a catch-22. You've got to be fast. You've got to show that you can run good to attract those sponsors, and but it's tough to do right now when you're going to be running on. Basically, the way we're looking at it right now, we're hunkered down. We're in the bunker right now. If we're one of the teams that survive, what I feel like the next, probably this season, maybe half of next year, until the economy really starts turning, we'll be better for it. And that's sort of the mentality we're taking right now. Is we're not looking to make any money on these race teams right now. We're just looking basically to cover cost and
not lose.
That's right. And you're going to lose. I mean, you're going to lose some. We've already proven that last year, and we've proven it this year, that you're going to lose a little money. But still, yet, if you know that you're not going to take a bunch of money out of the race team and put it in your pocket, we put every penny of our winnings back into the race team. We put every penny of sponsorship that comes in goes directly to our race team. So we feel like if we can continue doing that, then we're going to be better for it. We'll be one of the teams that's hopefully left standing when it's all said and done.
How about this ownership rule? How you adapting to that? Because I've met you. I think it was, when did you start in the truck series?
97,
8,
yeah,
somewhere like
that.
We met at I-70 Speedway. We were just talking about it. It's been closed down for 3 or 4 years.
I think I still got the track record there.
You might.
I do. I sure do.
Yeah.
Because they closed it down.
Well, you're going to hold that one forever, because that place
right.
is in disarray right now. We just went on a 20-minute tirade about Carl Edwards was asking me about that yesterday, and was asking questions like he was interested in purchasing that racetrack. But it's tough out there right now, short track racing for any promoter, especially pavement racing. We've seen it, and you've really seen a lot of changes since 1997 when you got into NASCAR and what it is now. But take us through that ownership role and getting out of the seat, and because you're a successful guy, you had a lot of success. How difficult has it been?
It's difficult because I still have fun every time I get in a car. But on the flip side, I also realized if I want to stay in this business, you've got to take a different role. You can't have the mentality of I'm going to be a driver, I'm not going to be in it at all. I like the ownership side of it. I really, really enjoy working with the rookies, working with the Cole Witts of the world. You're bringing guys along that hopefully I can take them from the Truck Series to Nationwide to Cup one day. And that's what our goal is at Turn 1 Racing is to build a truck team. Next year we'd like to have 2 truck teams and a Cup team, or eventually have 2 truck teams, a Nationwide and a Cup team, where we can take a driver and mold him in the Truck Series, take him to the Nationwide Series, and then take him to the Cup Series. But, Cole's a perfect example. I think with what we've done with Cole, we certainly hated to lose him, but we knew it was coming. The kid had so much talent that, I knew that we would keep him for a season and somebody would snatch him up, which is what happened. But that's what I like doing. I like bringing the new talent along and working with them. And, I've been to all these racetracks a bunch of times, and that's one thing that Cole said last year. He said, I can't believe how much it's helped having somebody on the spotter stand or having somebody drive me around the racetrack.
So you can pick your brain, right?
That's right. And basically saying, look, 15 laps into this thing, you're going to have to move to the top of the racetrack and start searching for grip. And he's like, it just sped up my learning curve so much as far as what to expect in the sport. So I really enjoy that side of it. It's hard sometimes because the racer comes out in me. I got a really good girl back at the shop that keeps an eye on the budget, because me as a racer sometimes
you just want to get it.
If we need it, let's go get it.
Right.
But still, yet you got to realize you got to stay in budget with everything you do. And as a racer, sometimes if that's going to make us go faster, I'm gonna figure out how to make it happen.
Let me just follow up with one question. You mentioned wanting to ultimately get to the have that Cup team and be successful at that level. Are you encouraged by what you see with guys like Tommy Baldwin? That you have to do some starting parks to make some money so you can run a full deal. But now look what's happened with Tommy, man. A lot of things are starting to come in place, and people are starting to run their programs through his program. Right. Ultimately, I guess that's what you would like to do. And your thoughts about that whole starting park to get yourself to that level? It
is undoubtedly the toughest thing I've ever tried to do in my life. As a racer,
I bet.
I've never – I always said I'll never do a starting park. I'll never do a starting park.
Pride, yeah.
Never say never, because that's what we're doing right now. I mean, we've got, we started a Cup team this year.
Right.
We've got funding for 4 or 5 races right now. But the mentality behind it is, well, let's go to the racetrack. Let's use this as practice sessions. Let's go to these racetracks and work on these Cup cars. Develop the program. That's right. And that's what we're hoping to be able to run. Our goal is to run about 10 races this year. Hopefully next year run 25. We'll never be competitive unless we can align ourselves with one of the big race teams.
Do you think some of the stigma has been taken off of it, though, because some of the starting park teams are now starting to show a little success? You think because in the beginning, man, I mean, that was a bad deal. Everybody looked at that as just a horrible thing to do. But I think more people are open to it because they see the purpose behind it more now than they maybe did a couple years ago.
Well, absolutely. And this is my first year into the starting park program, and when I first started talking about doing it, I'm like, I just refuse to do it. But once you get there and realize how hard it is to make these shows,
it's a race within itself, isn't it?
0.02 of a second last week was the difference in making the show and going home. 0.02 of a second on a racetrack, that's less than 6 inches. So
right.
I've got a different perspective about it now, because it's tough to make these shows, and people, they come along and they say, well, just go out and qualify and start the race. Well, it's tough to qualify, and what you got to consider is every time you go to the racetrack, you're spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 whether you make it or not. So you've got to build a program, and when I stepped into it, I said, look, I want to do this starting park simply because I want to try to build some momentum, get some attention. And honestly, I felt like the Cup program could help our truck program as far as attracting sponsorship, and it has. It's allowed us to offer pit passes and hospitality and a lot of different things that has helped our truck program. Added value. That's exactly right. It's just another tool that we can use basically to try to help our program. So, our goal certainly isn't to go out and start and park every single weekend. Our goal is to start and park, get some attention, let people realize, hey, we can make these shows. We are a legitimate race team that wants to go racing, similar to what Tommy did, and that's what we want to do is run these things as much as we can. Start and park when we don't have the funds to do it, and hopefully next year or later this year we'll find some dollars out there to be able to go racing.
Stacy Compton joining us. My biggest memory of you was Heartland Park, Topeka. You won a big road course over there. Talk about that.
We did. It was pretty cool. The Truck Series has always been really close to my heart. I loved it, and it was pretty cool that we were one of the drivers that were able to win on a short track. We were able to win on a road course. I mean, we had a pretty successful career in the Truck Series, and that was probably the hottest place I've ever been in my entire life. But we ran
brutal
good there.
Up there on those July races.
Once again, the Truck Series has always been so much fun. I talked to Wayne Otten a lot about racetracks that we should go back to, and I'd like to see the Truck Series get back to the roots of racing. I'd love to go back to the Portlands and
the I-70s.
Evergreens and the I-70s.
What was that like going back to Rockingham last week?
It was a blast. And if you look at it and you think about it, that's probably some of the best racing that's out there. I'd love to see us go back to North Wilkesboro and keep going to Rockingham and Darlingtons and the racetracks, the short tracks.
Yeah.
The short tracks, that's right. And I think, obviously, it's tough on the promoters to be able to do that, but still yet, the Truck Series still today, in my opinion, has the best racing out there.
Oh, there's no doubt. No doubt. You know what I wish, and I know you can't reel back to those days, but I wish we could go back to the days when we had a break during the race in the Truck Series. We talk about the state of the economy and how much it costs to do that, to bring in a crew, over-the-wall crew, and to house them and traveling and all those expenses. How much would you save if you just went back to doing those kind of pit stops back in the early days?
You would save some.
You don't think that as much as I'm...
Not as much as needs to be saved.
Yeah.
I get looked at sideways every time I say this, but we need crate motors. I mean, this motor program. I mean, when you're looking trying to generate sponsorship to run these Truck Series, and you got a $700,000 motor bill for 22 races, just doesn't make sense. I still say, and NASCAR has looked at it, and they know that's a problem. But I mean, that's a fixed cost. Your tires are a fixed cost. Your motor program is a fixed cost. You can adjust your payroll. We do that. You can adjust your travel. We do that. But if you're going to have a competitive motor program, it's $600,000 to $750,000. And I mean, that's just unheard of as far as I'm concerned. Why not make us run crate motors? Make us run a spec motor to where you can have a $150,000 or $200,000 motor program. You take $450,000, $500,000 off of that. You can afford to race now.
Yeah, I've never been a big crate motor fan, and I'll tell you why. But I think it would work with what you're talking about because they have the system to where they could do the teching. Right. On the local level, so many weekly racing series tracks that get into these crate motor programs, they really can't tech them, and there's a lot of putting bigger springs on them or working on manipulating the duration of the camshaft. There's a lot of ways to get power out of these motors, and quite honestly, the officials at a lot of these racetracks don't have the resources or the knowledge to be able to do that. But I think it would work in NASCAR because they have all of that.
They have the technology to do it.
Exactly. All right, so you got a great sponsor, Larry the Cable Guy. Lord, I apologize, barbecue sauce. Tell us about that relationship.
Well, and I got Mark Tobin here, which is the founder of it. We'll get him on here in a second. But, Mark's worked really hard trying to put this program together. I was friends with Mark for the past 10 years, and just a neat program. I mean, he's been working really hard. Obviously, he always catered us when we come out here. We'd always go fishing, and we'd do his radio shows and things like that, and just become really good friends. And I know he's been working really hard on putting this program together. And what a great concept. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm a very small part of it, but we're just trying to get some awareness out there right now.
Right.
Try to drive traffic to the website. The biggest thing is it's great. I mean, it's a great product. I mean, if you ever have had any of Mark's food, you'll understand. And then once he started doing the barbecue sauce, it's a good product, and that's what I'm excited about. And I think,
do we have a spicy hot? Oh, that's me then.
He does, and I'm looking forward to everybody swinging by and sampling a little bit of what he's got.
That's today for about an hour, right? And now are we on there? What's that, 11 to 12? Yes. I think we'll be able to fit that one in, Kirk. That sounds like a good time.
I'm sure you've got some connections that
I don't like to eat. I don't know. That's why I quit racing. I grew out of my fire suit. So,
CableGuysStuff.com is where these sauces can be purchased.
Now, is it on the store shelves yet? That's the goal, right? A few. All right. Well,
that's our goal, is to get it in a lot of different retail stores, get it in some convenience stores. I mean, obviously distribution is a big part of it. Right now, the internet sales is where we're going right now and trying to drive. But obviously our goal is to get it in a lot of the grocery stores and grocery chains, and eventually maybe get a meeting to go to see the folks at Walmart and just get the product out there. Because once anybody ever tries it, it's a great product.
Yeah,
and
you're sold on it once you taste it, right?
That's exactly right.
With Larry the Cable Guy, how can it not be successful?
That's right. That's exactly right.
I met Larry back in the day before he was really famous. He was just kind of doing the local club tour, and Kirk and I had him come in and do a liner for us, and it was probably, 2000 maybe, Kirk, he did this liner. So that tells you how long ago it was. And he come in and he says, if you don't follow these here boys following NASCAR, you might as well fly the commie flag. You know, and it was the greatest liner, man. And we had it for a long time. Well, it got lost, and now we can't find it anywhere. So it always. Hey, I don't know if you remember this. I bought one of your old cars. I don't know if you remember. It was back in about 2000. I bought a Kodiak Speedway car that was over at Joe Gibbs. It was sitting over there.
Yep.
And I don't know if it was your car at the time, and it had a truck motor in it. They were using more or less a show car. It still had the wicker bar on the top of it. And we took that sucker and made a school car out of it. It was a little too much car for a school car, I might add. But those were back in the days. That's when you first got into Cup, wasn't
That's
it? With
right.
the Kodiak,
we got it in
right?
2000.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. I think you told me that was a backup car to one of your cars is what it was. But it was a long time ago. Well, listen, good luck on everything that you're doing as an owner. And are you still going to be driving some?
We might still slide in every once in a while. Basically, I want to continue working with young talent. I want to continue bringing kids in. And the biggest thing is getting those sponsorship opportunities because there's a lot of talented kids out there right now. But bottom line is you've got to have somebody that can sell product. You've got to have somebody that the media loves. You've got to have somebody that's got talent and can bring all those things to the table. So, every day we're looking at different talent.
I can tell by the look on your face. You get a lot of satisfaction working with these young kids.
I do.
And bringing them along.
I really do, and I'm excited to look for that next Cole Witt, to look for, we've been working with J.R. Fitzpatrick. Josh Richards, I think, is one of the talented race car drivers out there. So, I mean, there's a lot of kids out there right now that we're certainly looking at.
What would you do to recommend? Because everybody thinks their kid's the next Jeff Gordon, right? We hear that a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And there might be some truth to some of them. For example, we did a remote last week with a young kid. He's 13 years old, this Trevor Hunt kid. And I'm going to tell you, his voice and the way he looks, obviously he's a young kid. But I've never met, and I've met a lot of young and up-and-coming kids. I mean, I travel with the Lucas Oil ASCS Sprint Car Series. We broadcast all the races. I see a lot of young talent. But I don't know if anybody has stood out as well-spoken and so professional on the air at 13 years old as this kid last week. And he is kicking butt, and he's doing a dirt modified deal.
Right. Well, by the way, he's winning races too.
Beating some of the best at 13. But I'm telling you, the thing that he has going for him as much as his driving talent is how well-spoken he is. It was remarkable.
Yeah.
He sounded like a 30-year-old veteran at 13. And I'm telling you, it's not the it is definitely something that you do not see out of a 13-year-old very often, and I think he's got a great future. But the problem is getting young guys from the dirt tracks an opportunity.
That's right.
That's the hardest. We know that we could go to any dirt track and find at least one guy that has the talent to make it to the highest level even. But the problem is, for whatever reason, you don't have the contacts, you don't have the connections, you don't have the relationships or whatever to get that opportunity to show your talent.
Yeah, and basically, my dad always says it. You'd be surprised what you get if you just ask. Mm-hmm. And that's what, a lot of these people, I think a lot of these kids, they're expecting someone else to ask for them. Mm-hmm. And generally the kids, Cole Witt, I keep going back to Cole, perfect example.
Awesome talent.
Cole talked to everybody out there last year. And he calls me up and says, hey, I don't have any money. Red Bull has been behind me in the past, but I want to go racing. He called me specifically and come to the race shop. He didn't have his agent call. He didn't have somebody swing by and drop off. That's right. You gotta take time and show the effort that you want to do this and never give up.
Carl is famous for that, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He went out and asked for it.
And look where he's at.
I remember Carl begging to drive my stuff back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And to be honest with you, we all thought he was kind of goofy going around handing out his card, everything. What is this guy? He got his helmet bag, and he's got a card with his picture on it. Says, look at me, I'm your driver. And
I'll never forget, he walked up to me at Dover. I was down in the corner, and we was running Cup at the time, and I was down in the corner watching the Nationwide cars, and Carl walks up, and he's like, how do I get around this place? And I looked at him, and I'm like, we talked about it a little bit, and I'm like, who is this guy? And the next year, it's pretty obvious who this guy was, but that's the thing about Carl. Carl never has had the big head syndrome. Carl has always been the guy that says, how do I do this? What do I need to do? And always look for advice and wanted to know what's the best route to go. And
Right.
Probably one of the nicest guys out there.
I'll give you an example of that. He just got hired by Roush. I had a little super truck team at I-70 Speedway. They were late models with truck bodies on them. And I asked Carl, I said, you want to come up and run the World Cup? I don't know if you remember the World Cup that ran at I-70 Speedway. I said, you want to come up and run it? He said, yeah. He said, I'm running at Texas the night before. I said, what, can you make it? Oh, yeah, I'll make it. He drove all night from Texas to come up and drive my truck. He didn't get in a jet. He didn't fly up there. He got in his car and he drove up there, and he broke my track record, and he ended up winning the race. And actually, there was a big pileup. He got into a guy at the start of the race. It's a great story.
That's before he had his airplane.
That was before he had his airplane, yeah. But, I mean, still, he'd already made it, though. I mean, he was driving for Roush at that time. Yeah. It was before he had the super chip deal. He was still driving the white truck. I mean, it was only 4 or 5 races into it. But, you know, some guys, they get caught up in thinking they're big rock stars and everything, and next thing you know, they forget where they come from, you know. Absolutely. And it happens all the time. Stacy, thanks so much for coming in and joining us. Again, where can they find the barbecue sauce?
They can find it on the website, and we certainly want to drive people to that website. You'll see it on the car this weekend.
CableGuyStuff.com?
CableGuyStuff.com.
Yeah. And, Lord, I apologize. Barbecue sauce, and they have it in a hot sauce as well. I'm going to go over and test it in the 11 o'clock hour. I guarantee it.
Come try it. And
proceeds to the Larry the Cable Guy's Get Her Done Foundation.
That's right. Absolutely. And come try it. I'll guarantee you there's not a better sauce out there.
All right, Stacy. Thanks, bud.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
There's a good guy right there, man. An easy guy to like. And we hope only the best for him as an owner. I got to believe that he is going to be successful at whatever he puts his mind to. He's a pretty sharp guy.